Hello, hello, here we go. It's the Carabao podcast.
What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another Carabao podcast to discuss the Reds winning the Carabao Cup yesterday. What a day it was. Winning our 9th title, overtaking Man City, which is even sweeter, and to beat Chelsea as well. It just makes it all the more sweeter. I'm Mick, and I'm joined once again by Empire of the Cops, Farrell, Keeling. How are you doing, Farrell?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I'm feeling much relieved after that final. It was a bit touch and go, wasn't it, for a while?
It was. Yeah, it was a lot of chances which we'll come to, but I mean, a lot of chances both sides. Them having a few disallowed, us having one disallowed, which we'll try and go into a bit more detail in a bit. But I just wanted to start off before the game. Obviously, Klopp mentioned, I think it was after I don't know if it was after the Arsenal game or before then, that I think he got asked the question about who's going to start the final if you get to it, and he obviously said Kevin Kelleher is going to start, and he stuck to his word and put him in goal, which was nice to see. And then you've got Thiago was also starting, and unfortunately picked up an injury in the warm up, which was absolutely heartbreaking. And you saw the pictures of obviously Thiago with getting consoled by Alisson, and he was just absolutely distraught, wasn't he? And I think we all were. But how are you feeling? Obviously, with the choice of Keller and Thiago getting injured, did you feel a little bit more nervy when you saw Thiago injured and you knew it was going to be Naby Keita coming in for him?
There's definitely that concern. I think there's always going to be that concern when you're losing, a player of Thiago's quality. I think it would have been a real sort of asset against Chelsea, because I almost feel, the last times we played against, that Tuchel team, we've kind of suffered mainly in midfield, I'd say, and Thiago is that sort of perfect sort of antidote, if you will, to that particular problem. I mean, in fairness, I didn't think Keita gave a particularly bad account of himself. So I think, all things considered, it's probably just maybe slightly evened the playing field a bit more for Chelsea. But as for Kelleher, I think I've absolutely no problem with him starting. I think Klopp said something quite profound after the match. He was talking with a reporter about the decision to start him, about it paying off, obviously, and he sort of admitted, sentiment partly guided this decision. Obviously, he's said he was the best number 2 in the world, and obviously he's a brilliant keeper. But I think Klopp was saying something like, I'm a human, I'm a football coach, and there has to be room for sentiment. And ultimately, it's a decision that it really contrasted quite harshly with Tuchel's decision to start Mendy over Arrizabalaga, didn't it? And ultimately, Klopp's decision paid off, and Tuchel's didn't.
Yeah, that made it all the more glorious, though, didn't it? Just the fact that it did work out, and I think we've all got a lot of confidence in Kevin Kelleher than they have in Kepa, and that's probably an understatement of the century. But I feel at ease with Kelleher in goal, and I think that's the biggest compliment you can pay, considering the number 1 for us is Alisson Becker, who's the best in the world, and is just so good at everything he does. But I just want to go through a few of the comments. We've got a few people in the chat here. Paul's in, evening up the fucking Reds. What a game! What a penalty shootout! What a team! We've got Yuki, hello, in sunny California. And we've also got Doug. Hello, lads. Thanks for popping in. I believe you were on his channel, weren't you?
I was the other day. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Was he kind to you?
Oh, he was lovely. Yeah, he was lovely. Props to Doug. It was good. I had a great time.
Yeah. Good stuff. But yeah, obviously, let's talk about Thiago a little bit, obviously, because I felt a lot less confident. I'm not gonna lie when I saw he was injured, because obviously we know how good Thiago, how instrumental Thiago is in this Liverpool team, especially when he starts alongside Fabinho. I think the stats are they've started 18 games together. They've won 17 and drew 1 and lost none, obviously. I think the draw was the Van Dijk injury against Everton, which obviously we won't go into at all. But I think that's kind of why I felt a little bit more uneasy going into this game without him, because obviously he's shown in the games recently even when he started or he came off the bench and he just grabs the game by the scruff of the neck, or if we need a goal, or he's perfect at slowing the game down, and everything just seems to slow down when he has the ball. And I think only the best players have that ability, the likes of Xabi Alonso and Steven Gerrard and players like that. And I think he's definitely got that. So I think it's quite a big compliment that even missing him, I felt it as a fan, and I'm sure you did as well, Farrell. But the team obviously would have felt that, and to still get over that, and obviously Naby Keita came into the team and like you said, done well, and it was also an opportunity for Harvey Elliott to come onto the bench, which was another blessing in disguise, wasn't it?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I think I'm with you, and certainly you're going to feel the impact of losing a player of that quality, and I think it's quite something that not only did we manage to overcome that, but we gave a pretty good sort of account ourselves throughout the time. Ultimately, won the cup, and what a tremendous what a tremendous moment as well for Harvey Elliott, and particularly getting to actually contribute in the penalty shootout. And with I think Kepa actually pointed to the spot. There was a lot of sort of moments like there was sort of shithousery in the penalty shootout from Kepa, which didn't really sort of fall his way. But we're talking about. I mean, I say this all the time every time I speak about it, but we're talking about a player that's 18 years of age, but he just every time he comes onto the pitch, he shows a level of maturity that far outstrips his age. You'd be looking at him thinking he's more sort of 22, 23. Just the confidence on that kid is absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, we're lucky to have him. Like the fact that he's a boy at red and everything else, it's just kind of a perfect storm for him to explode into one of the best in the world, hopefully in a couple of years' time. But let's get into the game a little bit then. Obviously, Naby Keita starts. We've got Kelleher starting. I think their team was pretty much, I expected it, like ours. Pretty much, it was pretty nailed on who was going to start, I thought. But it was to and fro in that first half. Obviously, they had a good chance with I think it was Pulisic, was it? Quite early on, actually, where a good ball in, and Kelleher kind of set the tone for showing the country just how good he is with a smart stop. And I think it was that type of thing that kind of, I think that helped us as well, that chance, because it kind of woke us up a little bit of a slap in the face to go, right, these aren't no pushover. It's going to be a tough game. And I think that helped us a little bit, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And annoyingly, we needed that sort of slap in the face again in the second half. But I think, Van Dijk's sort of spoken about Keeling before and sort of said, he has that sort of similar quality to Alisson. He's a very sort of calming presence. You could see it in the penalty he took at the end. It almost didn't faze him. I think Garth Brooks wrote about him and added him to his team of the week for his performance. He did just look sort of unfazed by the occasion. I think he described, he sort of treated it like a training ground sort of session, and he was just highly composed. There's no disrespect to Adrian, who's obviously served us superbly well, but I think there's been times when we've looked at Adrian, haven't we, and we felt a bit sort of unsettled. Obviously, you're always going to feel it, the drop off from a player of Alisson's quality, and not to say that Keeling is up in that tier, but I think there's certainly very much a case to support Klopp's claim that he's the best number 2 in world football at the moment. It's critical. I think it's almost more critical having that sort of mentality where you do exude that kind of that confidence, that calmness. Because I think you look at sort of keepers like, realistically, Kepa Arrizabalaga is far from being a bad keeper. Not quite as good as the transfer fee that was forked out for him at the time. But then you look at sort of players like sort of Kelleher. You certainly bundles of quality there, but it's the mentality that sort of stands out. It's that calmness. Klopp feels he can play him because he knows he's not going to be that kind of keeper that your back line's going to feel unsettled behind him. And you need that, because even if you've got leaders like Van Dijk, having that calm presence behind you, can change a game.
Yeah, you've summed it up perfectly. Like, I think the drop off in quality is not as great, but I think it's all, like you said, it's also that not feeling pressured. I think, was it the 7-2 Villa game where it was just carnage, because I think that kind of, I'm not saying Adrian's a horrendous keeper, he's not, but I think Keeling Kelleher is just a lot better than him, and I think he's shown that now on the big occasion and has proved that. But I think you feel there's an air, like you said, there's an air about him, isn't he? That it kind of exudes confidence, and he's great on the ball. Obviously, we saw the penalty, which we'll come on to how good he can strike a ball as well. But yeah, obviously let's talk about the game a little bit more in terms of chances. Then obviously we just touched on the Pulisic one, a great save by Kelleher, kind of set the tone a little bit. And I mean, the big one for me is the Sadio Mane chance. Obviously, a great little bit of play down the left hand side. Naby Keita's teed up, smacks a good chance, good save by Mendy, and then Sadio Mane 4 yards out, between 5 and 10 yards out. I suppose you expect them to score, don't you, from that distance out?
You would, but I mean, we had a few chances like that across both sides. I mean, there was one from Mason Mount. I think it was a volley. I think he was roughly, that sort of distance, if not closer. And, rightly was just, baffled as to how he'd sort of missed the target.
Yeah.
I mean, he hit the post at sort of later in the sort of second half. But it was just one of those games, wasn't it? I think, it was possibly one of, if not the best 0-0 at full and extra time that any of us have sort of ever witnessed. Sort of, how do we explain such a game to someone, down the line and go, yeah, this was a fantastic game. How many goals were there? None. Settled by penalties. But no, I mean, you would expect, player Mane's quality to finish from, that range. But, I mean, no one's going to hold it against him after, how the results sort of turned out. But you look at sort of players, that Salah didn't get on the goals. Luis Diaz was arguably Liverpool's best player before he was brought off. Didn't get on the score sheet either and had a pretty good chance. So I think it's just one of those games, especially when you sort of look at how, Chelsea's chances, and obviously, the argument would be fairly made that these aren't as quality clinical goal scorers as, our front three. But I think it's just one of those games where it was just destined to end up in a penalty shootout.
Yeah, I think I just want to get a few more comments in. We've got one from John. Big up, guys. Hope you're well. Nice one, John, for jumping in. And we've also got Dave. Nice one, Dave. Dave's always in. He's a ledge. But yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we did start the game pretty well, and obviously it was like it seemed, I didn't want it to become like a bit like a basketball match, but it did seem to kind of turn into that. Obviously, like you said, they had 3 disallowed in the end. We had 1 disallowed, which I think on the face of it, maybe the Lukaku one for them, you could say that could be given.
Close.
I think it was close, but then I think similarly our one, I think that could be given as well. If that was a different the
Virgil one.
Yeah, a different ref, a different day. He might not have given that. So I think it was 1-1. Obviously the Kai Havertz one, he was miles offside, but I think it's not good for the heart the way we play. Obviously the high line, but it obviously works, doesn't it? Like that high line, you're always wondering, shit, are they going to score? And if they do score, you're like, please be offside. And then when it is, you breathe a sigh of relief. But I suppose that's just the way we play, isn't it? That's just I think I don't know what we're on now, but I know a couple of weeks ago we were on like 101 offside traps, like in terms of catching people offside. That's probably a lot more now, but I think we were like 40 odd ahead of the second team in terms of the Premier League anyway. But I don't know how that relates in terms of all competitions. But it's just part of our game, isn't it? I think that's why it does help us in terms of if we've got pacey attackers or anything, or little balls over the top, as long as everyone's on the same page in terms of pushing up to as close as you can to the halfway line, then it works, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it absolutely epitomizes the way sort of Jurgen Klopp wants to play. I mean, obviously, it goes without saying it's fundamental to the way we want to play. We wouldn't be able to, exert as much pressure in the final third if we didn't have our defensive line pushing up to sort of box opponents in their own half. I mean, it frustrates me because I feel like it's often used as a stick to hit us with, and it's almost completely disregarded how actually, tactically sort of clever, it is. But we're looking, I mean, what was it? The Burnley game the other day. And I think the way it was sort of covered on Match of the Day was sort of, oh, look at all these brilliant chances Burnley have created. It was like, yes, but, 90% of those were flagged. So it was Liverpool's offside trap. So it's so you've not used it to demonstrate how well the offside trap was executed. You've used it to demonstrate Burnley's superiority that was non-existent. And it's a similar sort of. I've had this. I've got a couple of mates who are Chelsea fans, and it's sort of it's a similar theme that's used. Well, look, we had all these fantastic chances. Yes, you had all these fantastic chances, 80% of them were offside because of Liverpool's offside trap. I mean, it's risk and reward, and we've seen it before. It's not, sometimes it doesn't pay off, but the key word in there is sometimes. Look, we've got the quality in the back line. You've got Virgil van Dijk sort of shepherding that back four. A lot of the times it does pay off, and it does then allow us to sort of dominate games higher up the pitch. So I mean, yeah, I think I wouldn't want to see us change it, but I think it's something inevitably you do notice almost drops off a bit when you sort of remove sort of the key aspects, Virgil and that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what I don't know if it was last week or the week before. Like it works as long as everyone, like I said, on the same page and the personnel. I think that's why Klopp is so rigorous in terms of getting a centre half in who's fast, like Kanate. He can cover the ground. Obviously, Joe Gomez is now fourth choice, which seems mad because he was so good for us in the title winning season. You've obviously got Joel Matip, who should have had a goal and was unfortunate not to have one, and then you've got Van Dijk, who's just absolutely back at his best and is just exuding confidence and yeah, just an absolute legend. But we've got Chris in the chat. Evening lads, record breakers are back. Nice one for jumping in, Chris. It's been a while. I still need to get you on. Chris. So we'll do soon. I'll drop you the DM. But yeah, I suppose the chances wise, obviously, we're going to come on to the pens in a minute because obviously that was the creme de la creme of the whole game. But I saw something on Twitter and it was like some knobhead Chelsea fan, and he was saying, "Oh, we've cheated. The Lukaku goal wasn't offside." I think he mentioned something about the Naby Keita challenge. What is it? We haven't touched on that. What did you make of that one? I thought it's pretty much a 50-50, wasn't it? I think Keita's kind of obviously. Then the way I think with Chalobah, wasn't it? The way Chalobah's legs kind of fell, his foot just kind of fell like top of his thigh. What did you make of that one? Do you think that was potentially a red or?
I mean, at the time, I thought it was just a 50-50, just two players competing, for a ball. I think, upon sort of further review, having sort of look at it, I've gone, okay, I could sort of see grounds for a yellow there. But I think, calls, we had all the sort of Sky pundits after the match. I think it was Jamie Redknapp, Carragher and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank sort of calling for a red card. I don't know, we've had this so many times before. If you slow down an incident, to the millisecond, it's going to look horrific. It's going to look intentional. You're not taking into account that this has happened in real time. Split-second decisions. I don't know. I don't think Keita's really that kind of player. I think I think I could have lived if it'd been a yellow card sort of handed out. But I think calls for red cards are a bit sort of over the mark. That's my thoughts personally. I'm sure many a Chelsea fan will disagree on that point.
I'm sure they'll disagree slightly. Chris has just put, is Kepa the worst sub in history? Came on for 2 minutes, conceded 11 goals and misses the crucial pen. It was poetic justice, wasn't it? It really, really was. But I've got a few stats here just from the game. I just thought we'd have a little look at if I can get this sorted in time. There we go. Let's get the stats on there. And there we go. Yeah, so I mean, stats obviously don't tell the whole story of a game, but I just thought it was a bit interesting to have a look at these. Obviously, you've got possession 55-45, 20 shots to Chelsea's 11. Then you've got 6 on target for us, 4 on target for them, 11 corners, 10 fouls to their 14. And I mean, fouls, probably 13 of them were Rudiger because I just absolutely despised that fella.
He loves to fight, doesn't it?
Yeah, fucking hell. There was I think it was the Keita that when he elbowed Mount in the face, obviously trying to block him off the ball, and Rudiger comes barging over and trying to push Van Dijk, trying to push Fabinho, and you're just like, fuck off, you knob. But yeah, thoughts on those stats, Farrell? Like, for me, I was surprised when I saw them because I thought it was a bit closer than that. I mean, obviously shots on target's really close, and obviously possession, there's not much in it there, but I just thought shots-wise, it seems a lot considering what I can remember. I don't know. I was just a bit pissed and I don't remember. But
no, I think I'd agree. I think it was definitely. I mean, I'd argue we were the better of the two sides over the full and extra sort of time. I think the shots does surprise me because I do remember Chelsea having a good go of our goal, but as we sort of said earlier, quite a few of those sort of chances were sort of flagged for offside, but the old offside trap. But yeah, no, quite surprised by the shots. But I think on the whole, I think we were definitely sort of the better side. But I'd agree it was a close one. It was by no means a sort of total dominant Liverpool performance, was it?
No, and I think that kind of reflected in, like you said, it was destined to be a 0-0 as I mean a good 0-0. I think Gary Neville just kept saying on commentary, didn't he? Like, oh, it's the best 0-0, or I can't believe it's 0-0. It's like, yeah, we get it, Gary. Like for us trying to enjoy the game, you can't when it's just backwards and forwards, and it was just fucking mental at times, wasn't it? But we haven't. Before we get into the pens, I just want to talk about Luis Diaz, because you said before, like, he was probably our best player, but I just thought he was absolutely terrific, to be honest. Like, just, and I think Chalobah, I think that was might have been his first game back for a while, so you could say that maybe he was a bit rusty, but I just thought that it was the worst possible opponent for him to come back into the Chelsea team against, because he was every time just fronting them up. Could have went either way. The no-look passes, just he kept. It was like he'd done it once, and I was like, "Oh, it's boss." Then he'd done it again, and then done it again, and then done it again. I was like, "Fucking hell, he's loving these no-look passes." But just like just the way he moves with the ball, like, he just looks like he's not. You're not going to be able to get it off him, because he's got that low center of gravity. He's got the pace. He can knock it past you. He's got a great touch. He's got a great shot. He can, like I said, go either way. He's got. I can't believe how. I mean, obviously, if he would have scored that chance he had, I think was it the second half? Was it? We had a great chance where he was through. If he scores that, that's just the ice on the cake of just an absolutely amazing performance from him. And I think he said something. Apparently, I think Neil Jones from Goal put like a tweet up earlier about, he got asked how he feels, and he said, "I feel good, but I feel dead." He just obviously ran himself into the ground, and that's nice. That's nice to hear. Obviously, he's putting in the work, and he's maybe not used to having to put in that much work. But if you want to start in a Liverpool team and you want to start in the front three, that's what you've got to do. But you've also got to have the quality, and he's got that in abundance, hasn't he?
I mean, he's in a unique situation coming from a team. Porter, the manager, really values work rate. I mean, which is obviously perfect, brilliant news for Jurgen Klopp, because you don't really need to sort out that ethic too much sort of early on. I think a lot of what Klopp's done, he's admitted, there's a lot of information I need to give him, but for now, he's kind of got the basics sort of quite naturally. He works hard, he naturally presses the ball. So kind of just let them play his natural game, which does suit us at the moment, and then we can sort of fine tune things and get them all sorted for presumably the next season. But I'd absolutely agree. Absolutely, electric. And again, I'd firmly argue the case of being our best player before he was brought off. I mean, the flicks, the kind of move. I mean, his first touch is absolutely mesmerizing to watch. No matter balls he'd just sort of pluck, from the air, just out of nowhere. He's just one of those. I mean, the recruitment team have just done. We know just how good of a job they've done, but they've really picked a gem up. I mean, there was that one. I think when Reece James sort of came on, there was that one sort of flick he did, and then the no look. Yeah, and then the no look pass to Mane. It beggars belief just how. I think I mentioned this to you earlier. I think we're on Twitter. We're dealing with a player here that is, he's not 100% acclimatized to Jurgen Klopp's sort of brand of football. He's certainly, the performances certainly present a different picture, but the reality is he's not 100% settled. He's not had pre-season with this team. He's signed in the middle of the season, and he looks like he's played here for years, which begs the question: how good is Luis Diaz going to be? Once he's had that end of season, the pre-season, and he spent a year or two, he's reaching his potential. How good of a player is he going to be? I think I saw a stat the other day on Twitter that was looking at the amount of sort of touches he'd had in the opposition box. So you've got the usual suspects, of course, Jota and Salah, and he was exceeding Salah for touches in the box. If you're looking at sort of the correlations between touches in the box and XG and goals, as soon as the goals start flowing, they're going to start flowing for Luis Diaz, which is going to be an absolutely frightening prospect for any of our rivals.
Yeah, and like you said, he hasn't learned the language yet, obviously, because he's just arrived. Like
He'll get
he's
there.
been here a month. He's been here a month, and like you said, it feels like he's been here a year. Like he just, it's one of them. Like it started the season, we were downplayed severely in terms of chances for the title and chances for any trophy, pretty much because of the.
Sorry, mate. I'm just gonna have to pop down briefly. Bear with me.
Go on, mate. But yeah, I think he was played down because we were played down because of those injuries, and I think there's a thing on BBC actually about all the pundits and their predictions in terms of what we were going to finish as, and it's just hilarious to look back on that now because obviously the season's not ended, but we're in a good position at the moment. But yeah, let's have a look at what we can do here. So we're going to get onto the penalties in a second. So let me just get them up. There we go. I'll wait for Farrell to come back. Have I got the right pens? I have got the right pens. There we go. Obviously, Joel Matip. That still makes me gutted. I'm not gonna lie. That is absolutely gutting. That goal wasn't allowed. I was going to keep talking because I thought Farrell would be quicker than this, but so what's he doing? What's everyone feeling in the chat? Man of the match, actually. Who do you reckon was man of the match? Was it Quivy and Kelleher? Or was it Luis Diaz? I don't know. Obviously, it's got to be Kelleher, hasn't it? I think it's got to be Kelleher, just for the pen alone, which I'm going to get Farrell's opinion on. When he arrives back, I don't know what he's doing. He must live in a fucking tower block. I'm just waiting for some man of the match shout in the chat. Anyone got a man of the match shout?
Hello.
He's back. I thought you'd got off for good. I thought you'd gone.
Yeah. Just helping bring the shuffling back up. Apologies, I'm out of breath. I don't know. I apologise for the last minute or so because I've just been rambling. I've been rambling about shit. I'm sure it was poetic, Mick. I mean, I'm sure it would be absolutely.
I think they asked you the man of the matches and no one replied, so I don't know if they've all finished or whatever.
Well, I'll just say who mine was. Oh man.
But yeah, I thought let's just get on to the pens because I've got them.
Yes.
Them up, yeah, I just thought we'll go through them, see how we felt. So obviously,
you can make a case for every single one of them. I mean, they're the obvious ones, aren't there? But I mean, all of them were pretty fantastic, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, and I think Paul's just put a comment in here about. I feel like I've been watching them all day, which is I feel the same. I've just been watching every single one. I think Millie won the toss. Obviously, chose to go in front of our fans, which is what you would do anyway. And I think he won to say, well, he'll go first, and then he just steps up and smacks it home, and you're like, yeah, there you go, perfect first pen. Marcus Alonso, obviously pretty good at them as well, so you'd expect them to score. But then it comes to Fabinho's penalty, and thoughts on that one? I thought second pen just so fucking cheeky.
Mate. He's a mad bastard. Second pen, he tries a penenk. No, but I mean, we've seen recently. He's a more than capable penalty taker. I think obviously if we didn't have no rattling about in the squad, I think it would be probably Fabinho as our main sort of penalty taker. But yeah, I mean, just absolutely tremendous. I'm watching him do it at the time and think, it's always a bit of a risk when you try that. But no, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was just like if it doesn't work, it's just one of them. Pens is like that. If you try something and it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you're a dickhead.
You're an idiot.
So damned if you do, damned if you don't, aren't you? To be fair, but obviously he bags that one, and then you've got Lukaku scores. I was hoping he'd miss just because he hasn't. Obviously, he's a good striker, but I just feel like his technique sometimes isn't the greatest. So I was hoping he'd miss, but. Then this one surprised me, when Van Dijk stepped up third, that did surprise me, and I wasn't nervous because I know how good Van Dijk can strike a ball, and obviously we know he pings 60 yards for fun every game, like 10 times a game, and he can take a free kick and he's got a good strike on him and whatever. But that one kind of threw me a little bit. What was you thinking when Van Dijk stepped up?
I was surprised. I mean, we always knew that Salah would be one of closer to the end, fourth or sort of fifth penalty taker. Was a fifth penalty taker. Would have been the fifth penalty taker for Egypt in the African Cup of Nations final. But yeah, I'd expected. We've just drawn up the list there. I'd expected one of Jota or even Trent to come before him. But I think. Yeah. Again, just a tremendous penalty. And as we were saying earlier, we had the whole sort of tactics from Kepa to try and sort of unsettle everyone. I think he'd bunched over to the his right, where he suspected Virgil would put it. I mean, I'm quite glad he just went for it anyway. And it was just the whole. It was the look back after he'd scored as well, just to try and it's absolutely tremendous. I think every point Kepa could, there was always something he was doing just to try and unsettle one of our sort of penalty takers. I mean, it's just you could just watch any of those penalties back, and I will be watching all of those penalties back for at least the next week or so, because just the technique. I think I had something. I'm not sure if it wasn't through the official Liverpool website, but they were talking about. Neuro 11. It's the organisation the club have been working with in pre-season, who've been working with them specifically on set pieces, corners, free kicks, and penalties. And I think they'd practiced with that exact lineup of penalty takers, and they have been practicing with that exact lineup of penalty takers since the start of the season, since pre-season, with Neuro 11. So I mean, whatever they're doing in training, evidently it's paying off, and it's paid dividends already.
Exactly, and it's those those small margins, isn't it? Like those marginal gains that obviously at the top level are absolutely pivotal, and that, like I said, that's something that I think it's worth doing, because you know that it's going to get the best out of every single member, and it's like psychologically going to give us an edge. So, and then once it happens and it pays off in a game like that, you go, well. It was worth it. Every second we did of that was worth it. So yeah, props to them for doing that. But I just thought I'd run through these quick. Obviously, Van Dijk's pen. Kepa's like far right, and then Van Dijk just goes, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna go right over your head and put it top corner." Just absolutely ridiculous.
It was tremendous.
Just absolutely. Just couldn't believe it, to be honest, how good he struck that. And obviously Kai Havertz, you got Trent. Trent gets one, scores one. Reece James then scores. Mo Salah obviously then scores. And then as he's walking back and Jorginho's walking towards, there's that little clip where I think he says, "Don't jump." I mean, I think I've watched it probably too many times to actually say, but I think he does say "don't jump." Obviously, then it would have been great if he missed after that, because that would have just been such a iconic moment, like Salah just fucking getting into Jorginho's head, but he still scores anyway. But it was still funny to watch that little clip, wasn't it?
Absolutely, it's a rare bit of shithousery from Mo, I have to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, I personally rather enjoyed it, and taking the mickey out of Jorginho's penalty taking style. Yeah, I mean, it would have been absolutely tremendous if it paid off. I'm honestly, I mean, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm almost glad it didn't, I think to have been denied the end penalty moment would have been.
Yeah,
it was a cherry on top, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And obviously, like I said, Jota then takes the 6th one, which, I maybe thought he would take the 3rd to the verge, maybe. But, I mean, when you look at Verge's penalty, you're like, well, you're in contention to be a penalty taker going forward in games if you carry on like that. And then you've got Divock Origi. Who was you most worried about? Because I put this question out to everyone actually on the Copite Twitter page. For me, I think it was between Kanate and Robbo for me. Obviously, Harvey
Was
a
it?
little bit.
Oh, right. It's between. I hate to admit it, but it was between Kanate and Elliott. I remember, sort of doing them sort of mental maths in my head and thinking, all right, who have we got left of the outfield? Who hasn't taken one yet? And then the notifications come through, and I think Elliott sort of stepped up. Absolutely no qualms about the confidence on the lad. But I think you almost sort of think back to the international sort of tournament in the summer, and look at all the revolting sort of comments that sort of followed online when Saka missed his penalty for the England national side, and you just sort of worried. I mean, you'd never have that worry with Liverpool fans. I think that if he'd missed it, he would have had nothing but support from a Liverpool side. But you always sort of worry about potential sort of hit to confidence that missing a spot kick in a final can do. But I was sort of proved absolutely wrong. It was a traumatic again. More Shatazari from Kepa pointed to the spot that he thought Elliott would shoot, and Elliott went there anyway and scored. So I think just further evidence of why we shouldn't, why we've got nothing really to worry about Elliott, and certainly where his potential can take him. Especially with the self belief. We talked about this sort of earlier with Queven Callagher. That self belief alone can sort of take you miles. Add on top, the potential and the quality he's got, and we could be something really special.
Yeah, and like you said, I think I was worried, but I kind of knew that, like you said, that self belief he's got in himself. I kind of backed him to score. I don't know what it is. I think it might be left-footed penalty takers. I don't know why. I don't know what it is.
There's something sexy about it, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? I don't know if it's the fact
I feel more nervous though. I don't know if it stems from. I don't know if it stems from the Salah, where I've watched Salah take them, and I'm always like, oh fucking hell, and he scores. But I don't know. Like Rob, I was worried that Kanate, obviously, he's got good technique in terms of passing and stuff, but you don't really see him having shots like or doing 60-yarders like Van Dijk does. So you don't really have a gauge of his technique, especially because he hasn't been around at the club for that long. Obviously, he's got, in terms of passing, coming out with the ball and running with it, he's great. But yeah, I think Kepa got a hand to his, which was, I thought he saved it at first. I was like, oh fucking hell, he saved it, but it trickled in, which was nice. And then Chalobah scores, and then it gets to Queven Callagher, and he just steps up like he was playing in fucking back in his hometown, just on the field with his mates, and just fucking rifles it top corner, and you're like, there we go. And I was pretty confident he was going to score. Obviously, we talked about before, he used to be a striker and whatever, and we touched on earlier in the show about him being really good with the ball at his feet. I just feel like nothing phases him, does it? Like, I just feel like he didn't feel any pressure, so he knew he was going to score. That's what I felt anyway.
He's a proper Liverpool keeper, isn't he? Like a proper Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool keeper. Good with the ball at his feet, can distribute. Not quite at the level of Alisson's distribution, but certainly, pretty good for his age. And it was just, I mean, you could almost sort of see, watching sort of Kepa's, a penalty. The whole step up and approach was just completely wrong. It looked like, if you remove the goalpost, it looked like he's taking a goal kick. The whole sort of angle of approach. But I think, as you've rightly pointed out, with sort of Kelleher's sort of background, it would have certainly sort of helped, technique wise. But I mean, to have your keeper, not your first choice keeper, step up, and the pressure that must have been on his shoulders. I mean, he just didn't. It amazes me, but he just didn't look phased in the slightest. Absolutely tremendous. We're so so fortunate as a club. You know, we you know, a lot was made of late sort of the depth that Liverpool have now that the injuries have sort of dissipated, and we're so fortunate, you know, that resonates also, you know, in the goalkeeper's spot, and to have a keeper of Creven's quality behind Alisson, yeah, it's an absolute blessing.
Yeah, because I think I don't know who it was put a tweet up like is something like is there a chance for Kelleher to kind of, I mean, he's already not made a name for himself, but he's already done that. But could he be our number one? I think Alisson's 30 this year and Kelleher's 24 this year. So there's a six-year gap, but it's just Alisson, like you said, Alisson's the best in the world, and he probably could be for a long time, couldn't he? So I don't know if it's going to get to that stage where he kind of thinks might have to move on. I mean, I'd be absolutely gutted just because, like Klopp rightly said, and like you pointed to earlier in the show, like he said that he's the best number 2 in the world, which I agree with that. I honestly do. And yesterday's result only kind of reinforces that, doesn't it?
It's interesting that you bring up sort of concerns about him potentially leaving with Alisson's age, because obviously you're looking at sort of Alisson's contract. It's not set to expire until 2027. You know, at which point Alisson's going to be, you know, mid 30s. And, you know, if it was an outfield player, you'd be thinking, right, continuity, you know, who's going to come in. But, you know, looking at a keeper, you're thinking, my God, you know, you could probably go on till, you know, 35, 36. You probably round that point, you'd then be looking at, right, who's going to come up? Is it Pitaluga? Is it one of the other young boys? Is it Creven Kelleher, who's still in the conversation? But looking sort of 5 years from now, then Creven's going to be 28. I think I wrote about this sort of earlier in the day, and I'm concerned, and I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't some light probing at the very least come the summer, because I think he's almost absolutely, he's too good to be a number 2. You know, obviously, yes, he's getting the chances in the League Cup, he's getting the chances in the FA Cup. He's had some minutes in the Premier League when Alisson's been injured, but he's almost got to that point now where he's at risk of outgrowing the position. You know, in a sort of similar to, we had this conversation earlier with Nathaniel Phillips, and looking at, you know, obviously you've got the quality ahead of him. You know, Joe Gomez can't even get a game. And, you know, as you rightly pointed out, was a critical presence in the back line when we won the league. He can't get a game at the minute. So, you know, off went Nathaniel Phillips seeking game time. And, you know, absolutely not a single sane Liverpool fan in the world held anything against him. You know, he's too good to be a 5th choice centre back. And the question, I don't know, you do almost sort of think, at what point, because never mind Liverpool will be delighted to keep hold of him. But at what point does the player himself start to go, could do with some regular minutes here? I mean, it just depends, you know, where the interest comes.
Yeah, and like you said, I completely agree. Like, Alisson I suppose he's prone to get injuries, and luckily he hasn't had any bad ones, touch wood, and it's just nice to have an able deputy. But like you said, is he at the point, or is he reaching the point where he's going to go, when am I going to play, or I need more game time? And the thing is, if he's happy to stay, then we're made up. Like you said, I think if Alisson's contract is 2027, Alisson will be 30. What will he be? 35.
Yeah, around
35.
Yeah, around 35.
So Kelleher will be about 29. So
no.
I don't know. I struggle to see a world where we keep both for a longer period, and hopefully he stays another a couple of years. That'll be great, because then at least we can get him into the team and give him some more minutes. But he's just so good, isn't he? He's just so good. But let's comment here. Obviously, we haven't even touched on the last pen. Obviously, Kepa's an absolute shit show, and Doug's just put a comment in here about was Kepa's penalty worse than Charlie Adams? I don't know if it was worse, because that might be the worst pen I've ever seen, and that nearly went over the stadium, didn't it, Charlie Adams? But it was certainly horrific, wasn't it? Like, I don't know, just the way he's obviously just went for power, and he was just hoping to just smack it down the middle, and that's kind of what a lot of people do, go down the middle, because keepers tend to dive and guess, don't they? Obviously, before they set the mind to which side they're going to go, and they go for it. But it was just a great moment, wasn't it? I've just been searching Twitter pretty much all day when I had a free moment, just to just to search for different angles of when the ball goes over the bar and like the players running. And I think it was a great moment for Kelleher. Obviously, he gets put onto the goalkeeper's wall because obviously Klopp said after in that interview where he calls him the second best goalie, the best second goalie in the world. He said that he wants them to be on that goalkeeper's wall in terms of a keeper who's won something. Obviously, Alisson's there, Adrian's there, and like Doug says, like they've all had like an iconic final performance. So it was kind of like a great rounded moment, wasn't it? Obviously, Kepa coming on, not saving one. They would have done better just to leave Bendy on because at least he's a big fella. He might have had a chance of saving one, and then he goes and misses the pen. And then Kelleher is the winning penalty, and it's just it was just such a great moment, wasn't it? Just for everyone, and especially Kelleher to have that moment. And obviously Alisson was made up for him as well, that's just how good the squad camaraderie is as well. Like there's no ill will to any rival for position or anything like that. It's all in good faith, and everyone's kind of singing from the same hymn sheet in terms of everyone wants to win, and that's kind of why we've been so successful, isn't it?
I mean, it was sentimentality against cold decision making right there. You have just to feel for Mendy. Don't you know? I thought it was an absolute incredible game. For Chelsea, incredible game. I think obviously Tuchel justified it after the game and sort of noted that of the two, Kepa's slightly better at penalties. Obviously, I mean we didn't really see any evidence of that because all 10 outfield players and then Kelleher got their goals. I mean, if I was Mendy, I'd be feeling quite aggrieved. But on another day, it might pay off. Obviously, it has paid off previously for Kepa. I think I'm not sure if it was at the Club World Cup or no, not the Club World Cup. But I think it was a prior sort of game that Tuchel had made that gamble thrown on Kepa, and he'd made some crucial saves. But no, I mean, I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon for Kelleher because you almost do worry sort of sometimes the sentimentality can not come with such rewards attached, and it's quite sort of a poignant sort of moment for football that sentimentality has led to that sort of results for Liverpool and for the player. I mean, we saw those sort of scenes after the match. I think Henderson sort of leaving Kelleher alone with the cup in front of the photographers just to make sure he got his moment in the limelight, and a well-deserved moment in the limelight. But I digress. I mean, back to Kepa. I mean, we said this earlier, but the whole, you'd have thought someone would have had a bit of a word with him about this beforehand, because it looked, looking back at the run-up, it looked like he's going to take a goal kick. The whole approach is wrong, leaning back. His foot gets right. There's no laces there. It's a goal kick. It's. I mean, evidently they've not considered that perhaps such an eventuality might happen, and Kepa might have to take a penalty. At least I think next time those conversations and those training sessions will happen, won't it?
Yeah, they might have to actually practice that pen, not a goal kick. But I mean, it worked out perfectly for us. But yeah, I mean, we're getting on for an hour, so I think we'll leave it there. Farrell, nice one for jumping on to chat.
No, thank you for having me on.
No problem. Such a great win and a great moment for us to get our hands back on the League Cup or the Carling Cup or the Carabao Cup or fucking Milk Cup, whatever it's called. 9th time, the first time for 10 years, and I saw a side-by-side Hendo with both back in 2012 and obviously from the one from yesterday, which was Boss as well. But as you can see on the bottom of the screen there, this episode is sponsored by calidesigns.co.uk. So if you want to head over to this website, he's a local artist. calidesigns.co.uk, enter the code COPIPOD10 on checkout. You can get 10% off all the Boss stuff on there. There's Gerrard's Olympiacos goal. There's a drawing of that, which is class. Which I keep saying I need to change it, but it is up here. I can't move my camera at the minute. And there's a Bobby Firmino t-shirt. There's Klopp with the Champions League. There's Hendo with Champions League. there's absolutely loads on there. So if you want to go and head over, you can go and get some money off, which is always nice. But yeah, nice one to everyone in the comments. There's been quite a few good ones there. Nice one, lads. And nice one to Farrell again for jumping on. Appreciate it. If you did like the video, please like and do subscribe. We're getting closer to 1.3k subscribers, which is pretty nice. I mean, it's not loads, but for a fairly small channel, I'm quite happy with that. But yeah, nice one, everyone. And yeah, up the Reds. We'll see you again very soon.